What's up, Razmanites? I am here live on my Razman's reality channel, and for the first time ever on Geeky TV. Woohoo! Joined
Woo!
by joined by the one and only founder and uh, father, for lack of a better way to put it, of Geeky.com, and we are here, as the title states, to do a review that we're a game that we both get really excited about every year, but this year was definitely the reason to do a joint review together because it's on a new platform, and of course I'm talking about the PS4 version of MLB 14 The Show, or is it MLB The Show 14 now? I think because of the way it's written, I think you're supposed to say it that way now. That's kind of
I
I
don't
haven't,
know, man.
I haven't quite got used to that. But yeah, man. I mean, well, let's just start out with this because we were joking about it, but it's actually not a joke because it's the truth. This was a console seller game for both of us. I mean, when you add in the cost of a second controller and the game, we essentially paid $520 to play one game this year. That's how good
Yeah,
it is. You know?
it's funny because I did something similar when I got my Xbox because one of the developers of that All-Star Baseball 2005, I think it was 2K5 or something like that. Um, One of the developers reached out to me and told me that that year that they were going to have like a feature where you could use your own music on the Xbox hard drive within the game. And when I heard that, I was just like, well, now I have to buy an Xbox and All Star Baseball. You know?
Right.
So, I mean,
Right. Well,
I was psyched about that.
this,
And I had to run out and buy a console and a game over it.
yeah, yeah. Well, the thing is, I'd always planned on getting the show, but I was really surprised. I got a blessing and got a second social media contract that I wasn't expecting, which coupled with the money that I already saved up, gave me enough without affecting my computer budget, which I know you as one of my dear friends will be happy to hear, without
Very
affecting
happy.
without affecting my computer budget to be able for me to get a PS4 right at the time the show came out. And if that's not divine intervention, I don't know what is. I was like, are you kidding me?
It's
because
like, there's your sign.
yeah, because I half expected to have to buy it for the PS3 and then re-buy it at Christmas. Because I didn't figure I'd have enough money until Christmas to get a PS4. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's I'm really really happy with the game and with the system. So let's start breaking it down. What is it for you that we talked about it as an opener, but now let's start breaking it down a little bit. What is it for you that makes this game so good every year and sets it apart from other sports games or other games in general?
Well, what sets it apart for me is that you can tell that the people who are developing this game, not only do they know baseball because they've been involved in baseball for quite some time, a lot of the developers are not only developers, they are also, they've also been in, maybe not in the majors, but also sometimes in the minors. They've been involved in baseball at some point in their lives and they know about the sport. And they care about bringing out a baseball game that accurately reflects what baseball is actually like. And that's what really does it for me, is that this is a game that tries to recreate down to the T what baseball is actually like, and it does so every damn year better than any other baseball game out there, better than many other baseball games ever made. So, I mean, as it keeps getting better every year, year in and year out, because they want to know and they want everybody to know every year, and they want everybody to say every year that this is the best baseball game on the market, even if there are no other baseball games on the market. They want people to be able to to know that that's the case every year out, and it's true every year out.
I mean, the proof is in the pudding that more people bought between the PS3 and especially now with the PS4. I looked at the numbers. I think it's something like they're estimating something like 10,000 PS4s were sold last week.
Wow.
And
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. And what it says is not only how good the game is, but it also shows you why there's different reasons that 2K didn't care, because they had the exclusive third-party license and they didn't think they'd have to try about the game. You talked about that off the air, and you can expand on it a bit if you want. But other than that, it shows you why 2K didn't try to renew their license, because people were just automatically just playing the show. They would either go to a friend's house to play the show, or they would have the system that they could have to play the show. They didn't give a crap about any other baseball game right now. So 2K was like, well, we don't need to re-up the license then, if that's going to be the case.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, we're talking about a third-party game, a game that's only available on certain consoles, a sports game that's only available on certain consoles, that literally drove a first-party, or no, this is a first-party, right? And then the other one's third-party. Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah.
It literally drove the third-party.
We know what you mean. Just flip the script. Yeah, we got you.
Yeah. It literally drove the third-party publisher off the map. Literally. They don't even make games anymore. They don't even make the baseball games anymore. 2K has given up on that. And the reason is they didn't put any effort into it every year out, and everyone knew it, and nobody bought the game. Instead, they went out and they got a Sony console, and they got MLB The Show every year out. Which, I mean, that tells you something, because it's not every day. In fact, if you go back into the history of video games, that doesn't really happen.
Yeah, Halo was the last. Halo was the last one to do it for Microsoft, but after the first Halo, that buzz kind of went away. Nobody did it again for Halo 2 or Halo 3. Like, the games weren't that good consistently. But the more and more people that got word about the show over the years, the more and more sales Sony got out of it. And like I said, they're estimating close to 10,000 new PS4s sold in the week of May 7th to coincide with the game. So
it's a true underdog story if you think about it, because it's like these guys were off in the corner, stuck on the Sony consoles, unable to do anything on any other console, and they're just like, well, we're going to make our baseball game the way we want to make it. And the other guys are able to publish on all consoles, and they got knocked the frig out by the show, who was only on a few consoles. I mean, that's what we're talking about here in terms of this is a game that sells like hotcakes.
Literally, there's a term in the industry that I was talking about with our friend Brennan, the former WWE TNA for Life, now the PW Outsider, who does game reviews for us at Geeky. There's a term in industry called console seller, and this game right here, the show, is the true definition of console seller. It pretty much invented the term, in the sports genre anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And it continues to get better and better and better. So let's talk about now because this is going to be probably the longest part of the review. Like, people already know the show is good, but what they want to know is, if we weren't lucky enough to get the PS4 at Christmas like Stoud, or if we didn't have a sudden boom of money like Raz did, where we can just run out and get the PS4 that we want, what is the reason for us to continue to save up money and get this version of the game as opposed to just getting it on PS3? The things about the PS4 version that set the game apart. So I'll let you start and then I'll go.
All right. Well, I did a lot of research on this before the game came out because I wanted to know myself, what are the reasons to get this on the PS4 versus on the PS3. And one of the things I came across, one of the developers was talking about how on the PS3 they've reached the limit. They've reached the zenith of what they can do with the PS3 hardware and the baseball game that they're producing. So, I mean, that tells you something because that means that you're getting the best baseball game you can possibly get on the PS3. But like, there are little things that they can't really do on the PS3 that they can do on the PS4. And one of those things is like the crowd models. You'll notice in the crowd models that frequently you'll see the same characters doing the same motions over and over again. Like one over here and then like 2 or 3 or 4 down, you see the same guy doing the same thing, right? And that's because they can only do up to 42 different player models on the PS3. But the developer was mentioning that on the PS4, it is possible to do over 1,000 different crowd models, meaning you'll see one guy doing this, and it'll be almost completely randomized. You won't see the same character doing the same animation and the same block of a crowd. It will be almost impossible to see that. Now, I will say that in this game, in the show 14, you do see that a little bit, but you can also tell that the crowd animations have gotten a lot better. But it's just to keep in mind in that case that this is the very first game that they brought out on the PS4. They were not able to bring out the 1,000 different models this time around, but they did make an earnest effort on that.
Exactly, they did. And the thing that offsets it, because this is a first generation, and you know that, the thing that makes it not quite so upsetting is, yeah, it's the same actions a lot, but it's different faces every time.
Yeah.
It's not the same faces that you see doing the actions. So that alone proves to you what you could eventually see. Like, I another shout out to Brennan, because he's the only other person I've talked about with this game so far, other than my better half. I was talking. He made a joke, and he made it as a joke, but it actually could be something that happened down the road. Because game developers, when they're developing a game from year to year, they go around, in this case, to ballparks, or in the case of football games, like the football field, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They go around to all the different stadiums, and they film what fans are doing, to get a basis for their crowd models. So eventually, at some point, if you know what day the show people are going to be at your stadium, you could actually end up being a crowd model for the show. Like, your face could be in the show. That's the kind of thing we're talking about here, and it's just amazes me.
Yeah,
it really does.
It's really awesome, and I mean that's not even the only thing that's great about the PS4 version. It's just
not
one
at
of
all.
the things,
not at all. That's one little thing of about 10, 15 things we have to get into.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to be a fairly lengthy review.
Exactly.
Just a heads up. I mean, it would have been lengthy if we'd have done it by ourselves, but because we would still talk about all these same things, but now we have each other to bounce off of. So just sit back and enjoy it, especially if you're a baseball fan.
So one of the things I noticed in the first game I played was I was playing with Felix on the Mariners, Felix Hernandez, and I was noting that they did like a close-up of him after he made a pitch, and the color commentator started talking, how they do that little break kind of thing in the action.
Right.
And they do a close-up of the pitcher as he's walking back to the mound and getting set up again. And I noticed Felix looks more like Felix than he's ever looked in the show before. He looks, the facial thing is much better on the PS4. It's the graphics are much better and much more capable of really showing you what a player actually looks like in real life, because he looks very, like, maybe not exactly the same, but very similar to what he actually looks like in real life, which I've not really ever been able to say before on the show.
Yeah,
They they
another
have
guy.
tried us, but
Another guy that's a huge example of that is CC Sabathia of the Yankees. Like his body type, they just could never master that because it's
mhm.
such a unique body type. But I put him in a game specifically for this review to look at him, and he's another perfect example of that. It looks exactly like him.
Yeah, it's crazy. Particularly for the player models of the players that are actually out there today, they have put so much effort into them, and in particular into the big name players. What you
Well,
expect, of course,
and
but
and the other thing that they've done, that the power of the PS4 has done, is to go right along with the graphical upgrades, is it's created commentary upgrades where it allows the machine to store so much more information where the announcers are able to give you specific detail about a player. And for players like us that play season mode of our favorite team, it is just like nerdgasm heaven. When they say things like, and here comes perhaps the fastest man in baseball as Billy Hamilton walks to the plate to get this game underway. Just the fact that they know how fast Hamilton is. And then when Hamilton gets on base and they talk about his speed and they talk about, he gets the ball into the outfield and they're like, that's at least a base hit, but with his speed, probably more. And then he gets the double and they go, now that, folks, that's the definition of a hustle double. And then and that's Matt Vasgersian. And Eric Karros immediately follows it up by saying, that is what you call game-changing speed. And that's why everybody here in Cincinnati is so excited about this guy, because he could be a franchise player for years to come. Details like that you've never, ever been able to hear, not just in the show, but any sports franchise. Because the memory capability of the console, they had to put it all in graphics and all the other things that they have to do to make a game work. They were never able to pay attention to commentary. Commentary was so robotic, you'd hear the same things 5 times over every
mhm.
every game. You don't hear that anymore.
Yeah, I've
And
noticed that they've put a lot more variety into it. I don't know if that's the case in the PS3 version too, but there's a lot more variety on the PS4 version.
yeah, and one of the things I'm really excited about, and I'm sure this is where you're going to next, is what, or at least it was on your list at some point. So the DualShock 4, sorry, my fingers are in a bad spot. I'm gonna try to hold it better. But it's what the DualShock 4. There we go. It's down to hold it up while I'm working on mine. And I just turned on the PS4. Brilliant. Way to, way to go, Raz. But it's what the DualShock 4 adds to the game in terms of the built-in speaker within the controller. Because now, when you hit a ball flush with the bat, or when you dominate a guy with a pitch and you get that thing, that ball going right in the glove, it comes out of the controller speaker so that it's like you're right there and
Yeah.
playing the game yourself, rather than feeling like, oh, you're just watching a character in the distance. That new feature alone, speakers in the controller alone, makes it to where you feel like you are actually playing a game rather than just, pushing buttons and watching one.
hmm
And that, it boggles my mind, that feature.
One of the things I love, and I don't know if it's like a brand new thing, but the heartbeat feature, it bugs some people, but
Oh,
I
I
think
love
it's
it. I
awesome
love it. Yeah.
because as you're getting into tough situations in the game, the controller will vibrate like a heartbeat. It just and you're just like, fuck, You're so
Right. And that's what we were just talking about. I just wanted to get the noise out of the background there, so sorry if you heard. Because the PS4 mini music, it's cool, but eventually it puts you to sleep because it's like, oh,
Oh, I turned that off the second I got my PS4.
oh, you can turn it off? I didn't know you could turn it off. How do you,
Yep.
tell me
I don't
off.
remember how to turn it off, though. But
Tell me off the air how to turn it off. We'll figure it out. But, yeah. What was our train of thought there? What we were talking about?
we were talking about the controller.
Oh, yeah, the controller itself. The heartbeat feature is amazing because it just adds more tension to it, and it makes you work harder. Like people like us who are baseball insiders, we already know that if there's 2 on and 2 out, and you're facing a guy like a Homer Bailey or a Felix Hernandez, and you're the opposing team that's trying to hit off them, you better not waste any opportunity because you're not going to get another one as the game goes on. Like, we know that already because we're knowledgeable about the sport. But the fact that the show pays attention to that and reminds you of that, and it literally makes you sweat because you're like, the heartbeat feature's going, I can't screw this up. What do I do? you know?
Yeah.
And I got the best one that I've experienced so far was, and unfortunately it didn't pan out, but just earlier today in the final game I played before Stout woke up, because we're in different time zones, so we had to coordinate this. But the final game I played today, before Stout woke up, I came very, very close to pitching a no-hitter, which I've done before. I'll talk about that if at the end of this, just plug my own skill a little bit. But I was very, very, very close to pitching a no-hitter with Johnny Cueto against the Tampa Bay Rays, which is not an easy lineup to do at all. With at all.
Yeah.
And so the heartbeat feature knew what was going on. So for the entire 7th, 8th, and 9th innings, that heartbeat feature would not stop. It was like, it was telling you, like, you're on the verge of history here. Don't screw it up. And unfortunately, I lost it with 1 out in the 9th inning.
Oh. Yeah, this game is, I will put it this way, it's become a lot harder to just run roughshod over everyone else in this one.
And it has, and that's the thing I was going to talk about next, is because it goes right in line with the graphical upgrades and the commentary upgrades that we've already talked about. The game is so much smarter. Like, the capabilities of the PS4 and the almost limitless hardware that it has now allows the game to be smarter, and the game will pay attention to the kind of player that you are playing the game. Like, for us, we're both very, very comfortable with what they call beginner mode because we like playing classic style. We like using our buttons rather than our analog to pitch and bat, just because it's what we're comfortable with.
That's what we've been using for years, so...
Yeah, for 20-some years. But the beautiful thing about this game is that it knows that you only chose beginner mode because you like, that style of gameplay. As the game goes on, it gets increasingly more and more difficult without taking away that style of gameplay. So if you're throwing a no-hitter like I was, guys are going to be fouling off 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pitches in and at bat by the time you get late in the game, because it knows that you're good enough to be able to do that. And it knows...
drives me insane.
Yeah. and it knows that... a beginning player would not be able to do that. Like a rookie player would not be as knowledgeable about pitches and how to attack a certain hitter to be able to do that. So the
Yeah.
game gets smarter with you each and every game you play. And now in my franchise mode, I may have quote unquote beginner controls, but I have expert level difficulty because I cannot get through an inning without at least um, one foul ball per batter. So the game is really, really smart in terms of, okay, this is the guy playing, this is his skill level, and this is what we have to adapt to. And you said it drives you insane. I guess that's the only thing we've
Well, no, it
disagreed
drives
on.
me insane when I'm the pitcher and they're fouling everything off. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right. But as an overall
It's the
purist,
way it should be. I'm just saying, like,
yeah,
oh,
it's the way it should be. It's what I've been
gotta see the
craving.
game in real life too. When I'm like, ah, God, he's gotta make it out. He's gotta make it out.
Yeah, it translates just like you're watching a. Sorry to the viewers, my tray is kind of falling off here. I'm trying to adjust it and fix it, but it's it reminds you of what the experience is like when you're watching your actual team at night or during the day whenever your team plays, and you get that into what your team is doing. Because if your team is about to squander an opportunity, you're sitting there yelling at the screen and yelling at yourself. You did that somewhat when you used to play this game anyway, but now
Yeah,
it's like to a 10th degree because you know if your team missed a good moment, it's because of something you did. You screwed it up, you know,
yeah,
because of how smart the game is now. And it's just and it's just the little simple little details. Like we talked about how it adds to the graphical capability and it adds to the crowd and it adds to the commentary. The other main thing that the PS4 adds that I've never seen any other console be able to do is that it adds the ability to get so much more detail about the game itself and the way the game is played. Like I'll give an example, and then Stout has an example too. My example is there's a play in baseball called the bunt. For the few people out there that might be watching this review that aren't really fans of baseball, there's a play in baseball called the bunt where a batter will stick the head of the bat out and just try to scoot the baseball along the third base or first base line to get an infield hit. And when a player bunts the ball, the job of the third baseman or the first baseman is to do everything they can to try and make the ball go foul so that it's not a hit. And what they'll do is they'll go and subtly grab it with their bare hand, not picking it up and stopping the flow of the ball, but just subtly grabbing it with their bare hand and trying to push it foul, because that's completely legal to do as long as you don't stop the motion of the ball, because once you pick the ball up, the play is dead and it's either fair or foul. But if you can manage to touch the ball without affecting its trajectory, that's completely legal. And that's something that happened to me a couple of games ago on a bunt attempt. It happened against me with Billy Hamilton and not for me. But just the fact that you could actually see that in a game where the raised third baseman charged and was like, I got to push this bunt foul. I've never seen that before, that amount of detail. And you have another example about that amount of detail that you told me about that you can share with the viewers.
oh yeah. This was insane. I've never seen this in a baseball game before. I mean, they've added in the past the broken bats and stuff like that, and it makes it a little more realistic. But I have never seen what happened to me, which is that I hit with Willie Bloomquist. I hit a line drive right at a pitcher's face, and it hit the pitcher right in the face, and you saw the pitcher's face get like the pitcher's face was making a movement like it was like freaking out, which is what would happen if there was a ball coming at you at like 90 miles an hour right at your face. You know what I mean? and the pitcher had to be removed after that because he got injured because I hit him in the face with my baseball. You know? But I've never seen that in a video game before. I've seen pitchers get hit by a pitch before, or not hit by a pitch, but hit by
for
a line
example,
drive.
what you see in the PS3 all the time, the guy gets hit flush on the mound, and then they talk about where it hit him, but he's always waving off the trainer or waving off his manager because there wasn't enough capability within the game for the injury from the line drive to be severe enough to actually knock them out.
Yeah,
But
and in
now
this
it
case,
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
the even the color commentators talking about how it hit him right in the face, right in the head, and
Yeah.
it was just, I was shocked, like that could happen.
And it freaked me out. It freaked me and my better half out too because I showed her the message. It freaked us out because we're big, huge Reds fans, and that's exactly what happened to the best closer in all of Major League Baseball, Aroldis Chapman, this year. He got hit in the face with the pitch he threw, and he throws the hardest ball in baseball. He's been clocked at 106 miles an hour before on his fastball. So and so when that happened, we thought, did he die? Is he ever going to be able to pitch again? And so when you said you had that experience in the game, I was like, oh my God, it's like trading all over again, but it happened in a video game. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, it was absolutely insane. But I was going to ask you about the sliders. Have you messed around with the sliders at all this year?
I haven't had to, and that's another thing that's a huge difference about this game and the fact that the game gets smarter. It used to be in the past, because I was such an experienced player, and this is one of my favorite sports ever and one of my favorite games to play every year. Within 2 or 3 weeks, I would have to jack up the plus and minuses like all the way up in order to get any kind of challenge at all from the CPU, and not feel like it's Madden rookie level where I'm just gonna kill everybody 28-0. But I haven't had to do that this year because of what I talked about a minute ago about the game gets smarter with you. The CPU gets smarter with you as you play it, and that just, it's amazing to me. It might happen eventually at some point, but within a week anyway, it hasn't had to. What about you? You had to do it?
Yeah, but let me just say this. I was getting in with. I started with the veteran mode, and I changed all the settings so that it would be timing based. So that the controls would be what I want them to be.
Right.
Which the controls that I like are in beginner mode. But
I said beginner mode because that's what I usually do. I started in beginner mode, but then, change the control, or change the sliders up and increase the difficulty with the slider.
So I went with veteran mode, and I just started out with the sliders right down the middle as they usually are, and I was having some success, and I was having some failure, which is bound to happen with the Mariners, but there were a few things that were kind of nagging at me, like the opposing pitchers were throwing almost all strikes. There were very few fouls, very few balls, and that always bothers me when a game does that. So I had to change sliders a little bit, but I will say this: I have basically reached a point with the sliders where it's exactly tailored to where I need it to be, which I've been able to get pretty close with the show in the past when it comes to sliders, which is why I love the show so much, because it's so realistic and you can change the sliders to make it even more realistic. But I've never been able to get as close as I have with the show 14.
And
the
honestly,
most realistic I've been able to make it with the sliders.
Yeah. Exactly. And I was going to say, and I don't mean this as an insult at all. You know I love you to death. But honestly, I think the reason I haven't had to is because of how much better the Reds are out of the box than the
Hmm.
Mariners. This game knows what a good team is and what a good team isn't. And because the team I'm playing with is just inherently a better team, and because it knows that I'm a skilled player on top of it, it knows what to do in terms of, okay, how many can this guy know how to look at a ball and not swing at every pitch, that kind of a thing.
Hmm.
It's got the
Yeah,
built-in smarts to be able to do that, as opposed to the Mariners where they're just kind of lower on the
there
totem
are a lot
pole.
of players on the Mariners that they
Yeah,
strike out a lot. They don't really hit very well. Like for instance, we got one of those players that I like to call he's all power, no contact. You know, in Justin Smoke. He has a significant amount of power, but when it comes to contact, it's a little bit more difficult to get him to hit the damn ball. You know.
yeah. And speaking of that, speaking about hitting, let's talk about the hitting, because even though we use classic styles, like the hitting detail in this year's game is
Oh yeah.
a testament to the PS4, like nothing I've ever seen. Because it used to be there's a square button for power and the X button for normal, and
Yeah.
you literally would choose in the situation what kind of button you wanted to hit for what kind of hit you thought you needed, and that would be as far as you could take it on the PS3. On the PS4, they know the game knows what kind of natural swing that the player at the plate has. So it's no longer you could have a guy with power like a brand like the example I'm going to give is Brandon Phillips. Brandon Phillips has
Mhm.
a tremendous amount of power in his bat when he gets flushed on the ball, but he doesn't have the kind of swing that the square button works well for, because it's not an over the top kind of downward swing. It's the kind of swing that stays level the entire time, all the way through the ball.
Mhm.
So with him, I've noticed this year, for the first time ever, that I can't use the power swing. If I want him to have any kind of success, I have to use the normal swing because of the path that they want the bat to take through to the ball. If I use the power swing, he's going to chop the ball into the ground every time because his swing is not made to lift. His
Yeah.
power his power is generated from his own skill set. So I've gone to the normal
Mhm.
swing with him, and he's back to hitting the ball the way he should be hitting it. And that
Yes.
and the fact that I figured that out and I made that adjustment 3 games in, that was the first time that the PS4 showed me its power of gameplay. I was like, this thing knows what kind of swing Brandon Phillips has and how I
Hmm.
should be utilizing Brandon Phillips. That's amazing to me.
Yeah. He's not
Yeah,
a power hitter. He just hits for power,
yeah,
essentially. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's the same thing reversed with Justin Smoke, right? If you try to
yeah.
hit the ball normally with Justin Smoke or with Corey Hart for that matter, you're not going to get a hit. Or if you do, you're lucky if you get a single. But if you hit him with power with the square button, you're you're more likely to get a hit or a home run or something like that, or at
Right,
least
and
drive the ball.
yeah, it's the exact opposite with the opposite amount of guys. Like if I tried to do a normal swing with Jay Bruce or Joey Votto, I'm not going to get anywhere because they're power hitters and their swings are
Hmm.
tailored to come through the zone and lift the ball every time. And it uh, it amazes me that the game is smart enough now. You talked about the developers, and the developers, this is a testament to them and their knowledge of the game that they would do this. But the fact that they can now put in a game itself that smarts about the kind of sport that it is, where it's tailored to individual players, and it works with pitchers too. Like it'll and it, and the lineup you're facing. Like if the lineup you're facing is going to be successful against power pitching because they're a really good fastball lineup, then your catcher will automatically be mixing in more cutters, sliders, curveballs, things of that nature in order to make you have success. And that's the kind of little detail that you never see in the last generation of gameplay.
Oh yeah, like for
Yeah.
instance, the game I just played last night with Erasmo Ramirez against the Miami Marlins. Um, the game realized after a few times of throwing his sinker that he had a nasty freaking sinker that night. And for the rest of the night, like 90% of his pitches were the sinker. And he's just getting outs over and over and over again with that sinker, you know. And, you know, that's how it'll work in the real life. In the real world, if a pitcher is really on with one of their pitches is nasty as hell, they will stick with that pitch until it fails them, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I have another example of it. I think you probably saw the tweet. It was just the day after I got the PS4, because so you might have missed it because it was like posted within hours of my profile picture showing off that I had it. But I was pitching with Cingrani, the Reds pitcher Tony Cingrani, who's like the definition of a young power pitcher, because this guy has the kind of motion that it just makes it impossible for hitters to time the ball because of how it comes out of his hand. But anyway, he threw a complete game, one hit, 15 strikeout game. And in that game,
Nice.
by like the fourth inning, he was throwing 95% fastballs. The game was like, screw the breaking ball. You don't need the breaking ball tonight.
Yeah.
Your fastball is so overpowering that you're just blowing. Now, granted, I was playing the Mets, which aren't the best example in terms of being able to get smart when it comes to facing certain pitching. But that's what the game realized, is that you don't need to throw breaking pitches tonight. Just stick with that heater. And he ended up striking out 15 guys over the course of 9 innings. And that, it's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm sure the viewers and / listeners are probably thinking, well, there's no way what these guys are saying are true. They're just trying to build up this game. No, we're not.
We're talking about it like this because we are excited about the fact that it's actually real.
Yeah. It really is. And I'll give you another example. Like I talked about Phillips before. Another example is it can happen in reverse. When even though you know what to do with your swing, if you miss your timing by like just that much and you end up popping a ball up, the game gets mad at me every time that I hit the ball in the air, with the exception of one time when he got it flush and it went out. But it gets mad at me every time that I hit the ball in the air and it doesn't result in a hit with Billy Hamilton. And it actually will tell me and yell at me and say, this guy's the fastest guy in the league. His job is to get on base and use his speed, because it makes the mistake sometimes of thinking that I'm trying to hit with power with Billy Hamilton. And I'll mistime the swing every once in a while. That's all. But the fact that it has that inside knowledge where it thinks that you don't have the inside knowledge about the player you're playing with, and it's trying to teach you, like, don't be trying to swing for the fences with this guy. Get on base with this guy and let him do his work. It's amazing.
Exactly.
It's amazing. It really is. Now, I'm trying to think. Is there anything else? We talked about the gameplay ad nauseum, the smartness of the game ad nauseum. I'm trying to remember. Is there anything else positive that we didn't cover? Because there is a very small list of negatives that we should talk about before we get out of here.
Have you played The Road to the Show yet?
I have, and that actually to me is going to lead off my list of negatives, because that's the one mode that I haven't seen a lot of changes in. there are changes there, and you can tell they're working on it, but they're still kind of on the it's not broke, so let's not try to fix it mode. And I was a little bit disappointed with that.
Well, I don't know. I noticed a few things that I really liked about the Road to the Show this year, which is like the fact that you no longer have to meet any goals. You can choose where and when you want to put all your training points and stuff like that. I've been waiting for that for so long. Thank you guys.
Yeah, that's a huge plus, and that was the thing that I immediately noticed. I was a big fan of. I guess the thing that upsets me about the show is that, or the Road to the Show mode, is the fact that it's the perfect rookie mode, and it gives you the excitement of working your way through the minor leagues and making the major leagues and getting better every game and all that. It's the most fun mode to play in the game, other than franchise mode, if you're like a hardcore fan of a team. But the thing about it that's always bothered me is that they just don't have enough in terms of the minor leagues, because they only have 3 of your minor league teams, or most teams have at least 4 or 5 minor league affiliates, and they have different reasons for having you at different levels of single A, double A, triple A. And that's what I was most disappointed by this year. I heard or read on a review somewhere that the Dayton Dragons were finally going to be included in MLB The Show, which is the Reds' second single A team, which of course I'm very, very partial to, because I grew up in Dayton and spent most of my life in Dayton. So I've always wanted to be able to play that team on the video game. So I got so excited because I heard that the Dragons were going to be at it this year, and they weren't.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm just like, can you guys please add single A teams? I know it doesn't really necessarily make a lot of sense to you probably, but you know what? That's what the fans want. We've been wanting to have single, double, and triple A team affiliates. And I'm not saying add every single affiliate, but
no. But out of the two, if you just did it team by team, like you can talk about the Mariners, I can talk about the Reds. For the Reds, out of the 2 single A affiliates that they have, automatically they would have picked Dayton because of the fan attendance in Dayton. Dayton holds the record for the most consecutive sellouts of any sports franchise at any level for the last 10 years. Anywhere. Yeah. So they have a rabid fan base with the Dayton Dragons. And so much so that there's actually been rumblings that they're going to get to move up in the system within the next couple of years, which I'm really hoping that would be awesome. If they could, to be because that's the only bad part about a single A team, is that it is a single A team. And the minute that a guy starts to show that he has some real skill, he's going to be gone within a week. So the team that you start the year with is nowhere near the team that you finish the year with. So it's impossible to contend on a single A level.
Double A teams.
It's just not going to happen.
The thing with double A teams is that they often send players who are struggling down to double A. So double A, you'll get some big league players playing sometimes. And you also get a lot of people who have a lot of potential, because a lot of times they just completely skip over AAA. AAA is kind of where some players go to die. So AA, in my opinion, is the most exciting minor league team. So that would be really cool. That would be very nice to see.
Yeah, and I like, but it's also happened with single A a lot now. I would like to see the amount of detail put in to the game, and it can't happen on the PS4. I don't know if it's going to happen next year or the year after, but I'm sure the developers of the show are aware that this is something missing, or if they're not, I'm telling you, this is something missing. I want to see within the game, because you have the minor league capability, because you have the Road to the Show mode, I want to see the ability to, they came close this year with what they call player lock mode, where you're able to just pick one player and control one player on an existing team. and it doesn't have to be a road to show player. I want to see that taken to the next level where that's effective with every guy on the team, where if a guy suffers an injury during a season and it's not a severe enough injury to knock him out for the entire year, I want you to be able to play player lock mode or, you know, player choice mode, whatever you would call it, with an injured player to where he would get set down to the single A or double A or triple A affiliates on a rehab assignment. And you get to see like the fun of seeing this guy that doesn't belong on your team, but your team suddenly gets 40,000 more fans for that one game because they know that that superstar is here on a rehab assignment playing in the game. Like, I would love to see that kind of thing happen. And I think it can happen on the PS4 eventually.
Yeah, I think that that's definitely possible, and I hope that they do try to do some more innovative stuff. I mean, they've been mostly about simulation, and it shows. And, I mean, if you know me, you know I love simulation games in general. So when you combine simulation and my favorite sport, baseball, it's a no-brainer. Of course I'm going to play this game.
Yeah. Know? Well, it shows, like, how much of a hardcore player you are. I'm lucky because I always, you know, have had good supporters around me, and now I have a job where I can do it myself. I was able to get the show every year, so it didn't matter. But I remember talking to you a couple years ago, and you were so jonesing for the show at a time when you were broke that you were still playing MLB The Show 2010. And
yes.
This was last year.
It was like 2012 or 2013 or something, yeah. But I'm so glad my brother got me a PS4 for Christmas, and then I got, you know, another gig and was able to get some money and afford this year, yay!
Yeah.
But I think it's time that we start talking about some of the negatives, probably.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well, I kind of got accidentally into the things that I would like to see expansion with. So let's cover that topic first, and then just to keep a flow, and then we'll end with the negatives. And the other thing I would really like to see in terms of expansion within the game with the new technologies, I would love to see, because they now have the ability for you to carry your franchise over from year to year. Like, you don't have to start over again with your franchise, which is going to be a huge innovation, you know, come next year.
Oh, I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, that's going to be huge. But the one detail that I have, and it may be in this year's game for all I know, but I haven't seen it yet because we've only been playing for like a week now. I want to see them add the ability to, within your game, be able to know when it's time to let go of a guy because his skill level is dropping and not be criticized for it. Like, the example I can give is I let go of Scott Rowland a year earlier than the actual Reds did because I could tell that, you know, this guy is a great glove, but it's just his skill level is just declining. So I was playing Todd Frazier every day a year earlier than what the actual Reds team did. But because I decided to do that, the announcers decided that they were going to yell at me for making a dumb move because I let go of Scott Rowland and ate Scott Rowland's salary and was playing a rookie every day. I don't want to see that happen. I want the game to be able to, and we talked about it's doing it in terms of gameplay. So I want them to somehow be able to tailor with the individual player in terms of, I want the game to be smart enough to know that this guy is a really knowledgeable baseball fan and the moves he's making actually make perfect sense for his team right now.
Yeah.
And he shouldn't be criticized for any of the moves that he makes.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
you know,
that's one of the things that I sometimes just want to turn off the color commentation because it's like these are great commentators. They are, most of them, former baseball players themselves. They know what they're talking about, and they really go into a lot of depth and detail. But it gets annoying and aggravating sometimes when you're doing something and it's like, well, there's obviously a reason that I'm doing this, and it makes perfect sense to me, but you're getting angry at me for doing that, and that is annoying. So they definitely still have some work to do when it comes to color commentator, even though it's gotten better in this year.
Well, I'll give you an example of a move that would be, the perfect way to illustrate what we're talking about. Hamilton's a rookie this year. So say Hamilton on the game, his skill level just isn't translating, and I eventually think I got to put Chris Heisey as my starting center fielder, to give my team better success. And I just use Hamilton as plug-in player or secondary player. I'm sure if I had to make that move, that the game would be talking to me about, I can't understand why this guy isn't getting playing time, or, the manager, the quote-unquote assistant GM feature would say, start Billy Hamilton. Billy Hamilton hasn't played in 6 games. This doesn't make sense. I want to see that. That's a negative in terms of the detail that needs to be switched off. It needs to just let the player be smart enough to play his own franchise.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I would like to see as well, I mean, when it comes to stuff that I want to see, it's all stuff that has been in baseball games before, but they never really brought it along with the show or anything.
Right.
So one of the things that I really loved from All-Star Baseball back in the day was, you mentioned expansion before. They had an expansion mode where you could literally create your own team from the ground up through an expansion mode, and they would have a draft, and certain players would come to your team. They wouldn't maybe be the best players, but I would like to see something like that. Just give me the ability to make my own team in Portland, since they're taking forever to actually do something like that, even though there's clearly a demand for it.
Yeah, that's clearly a rant that we could go on either in this review, or if we decide to do a baseball series on Geeky TV, which I was actually going to talk to you about, because I think you and I maybe a weekly breakdown of Mariners and Reds success. I think that would be a cool show to do. It'd be something new and unique for Geeky TV. So we'll talk about that and decide if we want to do that. But that's definitely a rant that you should do sometime, because Oregon is the one market out there that would be perfect for baseball. Why does Oregon not have a team, but Colorado, who gets freaking snow in the middle of May, has explain that to me. It makes no sense.
And the Rockies are great, but it's just frustrating. There are people who want a baseball team here, and we just keep getting crapped on. The Mariners have, if you look at it, they have one of the biggest, if not the biggest, markets in the United States.
Well, of course.
Because they're reaching Oregon, they're reaching Washington, and actually Alaska is part of their market, and so is British Columbia.
They actually reach Washington better than the Washington Nationals do a lot of the time, which is really sad.
Yeah. And speaking of which, I mean, I want to play the Washington Nationals on here at some point. But yeah. I mean, it would be really nice to see them actually consider bringing a major league team to to Oregon in particular, maybe to Portland, hopefully. But I don't know where they're going to put a stadium, but that would be cool.
Yeah,
because there's enough room for
maybe
it.
The big hang up is they haven't found somebody that wants to pay the money to build a stadium and build a team.
Yeah.
I doubt that's the case. I mean, you can get investors from anywhere.
Come on, we got Nike here, we got Intel, we got investors.
Exactly. Just make Intel American Ballpark and you're done. And
it wouldn't be too hard, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, back on topic. The things that he was saying, there were things that were in little things that were in other games that haven't been in the show. He talked about expansion. What else was on
Um,
your list?
well, other than that, just being able to create your own ballpark, which is something that you could do in the MVP games. They never really perfected that, and it wasn't perfect, and it wasn't great in those games, but it was really cool to be able to create your own ballpark and, like, from the ground up, start your ballpark with, like, you know, 10,000 seats or something like that, and then build it up to 20,000, 30,000. Now, it didn't really make sense in the MVP games because you were basically a major league team playing in a new stadium that had like 10,000 seats, and that doesn't make any sense. But if you could do it
Right.
to the point where you're building your stadium up from the ground up and you've got 10,000 seats and you're starting at like single A or double A with that many seats, that makes more sense. And then as you build your stadium up, then maybe a major league team can enter that ballpark.
Yeah,
You know
maybe a
what I mean?
team switches location, like maybe Colorado does move to Oregon and they say, I want to play at this ballpark. You know, that would
Something
be
like
great.
that. That
That
would be cool to see in a video game like
that would
this.
that would be awesome. As for me, I'm sorry. Do you have anything else? I was gonna go
No,
into.
that's it.
Okay. Well, the only thing that you didn't cover, because you took everything off my list, which is why I love working with you, because our mind is so in sync all the time. It never fails to amaze me how similarly we think, whether it's about baseball or whether it's about geekiness or whatever the case is. Um, but the only thing you didn't cover in terms of additions, now this may be in this game, but I don't think either one of us has gotten to the point to see it yet, unless you simmed ahead just to see if it was there, which I meant to do and just forgot. But this
No,
has
I
been,
haven't.
but this has been a little hang up with the game every year that everybody hates. And if it's still in the PS4 version beyond this year, it's just inexcusable. You make a trade, put the guy in the right uniform on his picture. I don't want to see a guy in his Texas Rangers or Chicago White Sox hat when he's in the middle of my Reds lineup. Fix that.
Yeah,
You know?
I don't think I think that I have seen that change because I brought in. I told you I brought in Juan Pierre, right,
Yeah.
onto the Mariners, and he's wearing a Mariners uniform in his picture. So
And it's not like a created player type uniform. It looks like he was actually shot in a Mariner uniform. That's what I'm saying.
well, I guess they still have to do some work on that. But yeah, I mean that's definitely something I would like to see them do
But
is
like,
to put more effort into that.
yeah, like existing players, like
Yeah,
if you manage to pull off a trade, like I don't see this happening because not very many markets could do it. But if you were to pull off a trade for Steven Strasburg and bring him to get him out of Washington and bring him to a real contender like, Boston or New York or something like that, or even Cincinnati, not that we need pitching right now, but just a contender that could benefit from like a Steven Strasburg out of Washington.
mhm.
Have Steven Strasburg go into his new uniform immediately, when he's shown on his photo. Like it seems like a silly little detail to harp on, but again, this is a review done by hardcore baseball fans who love this game for its hardcoreness. So this is
Yeah,
stuff that just needs to happen within the game. So now we're finally ready. We talked about all the positivity. We talked about additions we'd like to see. We're finally ready to talk about the negatives. And it's really awesome that we got to save the negatives for last. Because usually the negatives make a review like 10 times longer because there's so many of them. But for this year, there just
yeah,
isn't a lot of them.
there really are. I mean, I can only think of a few off the top of my head, honestly, like one or two. The main problem that I'm having with the game is that the player animations can sometimes cause an issue when you're playing the game because it isn't as fluid as it needs to be sometimes. So like I'll be playing with Robinson Cano, he'll catch the ball and he'll go out of his animation while he needs to make the play, and then you're just pressing the button like make the play, and finally, too late, he throws the ball and the guy is already safe. It hasn't happened a whole lot, but it has happened a few times.
And I think it was definitely that way when we first got the game, but with this most recent roster upgrade, if you haven't upgraded your online roster yet, do that, because I think there was actually a firmware patch in it. Because since I've downloaded the new roster update, it hasn't happened. I haven't seen it happen yet.
I haven't seen that happen very much either. I think I saw it like once, but for the most part, that has been, fixed.
And I think, and we talked about this off the air and forgot to mention it during the review. I really want to applaud the team at San Diego Studios for realizing what they had in terms of this game and in terms of the new hardware, because they wanted to make sure they got it right. They put out the PS3 version on time at the beginning of the season, but they told PS4 users or potential PS4 users right off the bat that you're going to have to wait an extra month, but it's for a very good reason. We want to make sure that these awesome crowd models and player models and this awesome gameplay is translated fully into 1080p at 60 frames per second and not stuck on 720p at 30 frames per second like you've had for so many years. Like, we want to make sure that you're getting full detail out of your console. And with the exception of little hiccups like that they had to fix up or tweak more, throughout the game, and eventually they'll eliminate, completely before the next game is released, because that's what they do. Once they figure out there's a problem, they work on it all year through firmware until it's fixed. But, just the fact that they worked so hard to avoid as much of that as possible by delaying the game an extra month, I think is huge.
Yeah. And they definitely are doing their best in that area and did their best. It isn't perfect, I'll put it that way, but by the end of the year, maybe it will be perfect with all the firmware upgrades.
And by the time the show 15 rolls around and they've had a year on the console, it will be perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If nothing else, the gameplay by the show 15 is going to be pretty spot on. But I will say this, to their credit, I have not noticed any graphical hiccups. I have not noticed anything that would be considered some kind of an issue where, like,
the only thing I have noticed, and it's only on Cuban distant players like Johnny Cueto, they got everything else right except their eyes. Their eyes do seem a little bit off. They seem a little bit more like they're bulging out of their heads, which is kind of disappointing.
Yeah, it's a little... There are a few player models that are like, well, I don't know if that's perfect, but...
I mean, it's as close to perfect as you've ever seen it, but it's not 100% there.
Yeah.
And the Cueto one really bothers me because Cueto's such a big-time pitcher. I mean, he's one of the best pitchers in the league, and Red fans are going to want to pitch with Johnny Cueto. And they should be able to look at Johnny Cueto. Not
being like, what the hell's wrong with Johnny Cueto?
Not 95% Johnny Cueto with bug eyes. Yeah.
For the most part, Johnny Cueto.
Yeah. So... But they really fixed his Louis Tion motion. Like, that's perfect now. They've gotten that perfect. It's not just generic anymore. Like, it really is truly Johnny Cueto's, hip turn that he does and his full windup, which is really cool.
But you know how they would have, like,
see that,
you know how in the past they would have a few graphical glitches every now and then that might might negatively affect the gameplay. None of that. There's none of that in this game. None of it. I haven't seen one glitch.
No, the one that you would see the most would be when you were going after a fly ball on the warning track in left or right field, and the guy would get stuck in the wall as he was coming out of the inning.
That hasn't happened.
Hasn't happened once, not once. And
they took their time with this game. It took an extra month to make sure it was perfect and that it worked, and it works. It works exactly as you expect a next generation baseball game to work.
Yeah, and the thing we said it in the beginning, but it bears repeating as we get close to the end here. We're talking about the first year of this council.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not even talking about this council at its full potential yet. The idea of the show game with this council at its full peak is I can't even fathom what that's going to be like.
Yeah.
That's going to be an experience that we've never. There are no words to describe it because we've never had it before.
That's what should excite you the most if you're looking and trying to decide whether or not to get the PS3 or the PS4 version of this game. What should excite you the most about MLB The Show 14 on PS4 is that it is as amazing as it is, and they haven't even reached the pinnacle of what they can do. Not even close on the PS4. So it's better than any other baseball game that has ever been put out before, and yet they haven't even done as much as they could do yet. So, like, that's what's the most exciting about it to me, is like, it's not perfect, and yet it's going to be much better in the years to come. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's already as close to perfect as anything we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Already.
It's better than any other baseball game I've ever played, bar none. It's the best baseball game I've ever played.
I mean, this I don't know about you, but even if I get 2 or 3 more PS4 games this year, this is going to be the game that's played all the way until next April. Because
same here.
You know.
I can see myself putting this in and playing it for the rest of the summer. Probably, take a break for a few months and then start playing it again in the winter before.
And that's the thing that all the different game modes provide for it. Like, you can get through your first year of franchise mode, then you take a break from franchise mode, and you go into Road to Show mode.
Yeah.
Then, the different modes that you can play adds to the longevity of the game.
What I'll do is I'll get frustrated with the Mariners sucking, and then I'll go play Road to the Show. Just to take a break. Like, screw you guys.
Well, I love the realism of it, and you do too, and that's what we do. But 162 games, we're the only 2 people I think that I know that would be insane enough to actually play 162 game season. Like,
and
most
we do it,
Yeah, and we do it consistently every year. But most people, that's the thing they hate the most about baseball. They're like, the regular season is way too long, and I just want to play the playoffs. And that's actually why they created the postseason mode last year that they've carried over to this year. They give people the option to just jump straight to the playoffs if that's what they want to do with the game.
Yeah.
But for me, it's so much more rewarding to go through the trials and tribulations. You want to do what your actual team does. You want to go through the horrors of 162 games. So if you win a World Series, you freaking earn that World Series trophy.
Yeah.
You know.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but in this version of the game, you can actually start a franchise and play it online. Is that correct?
You can. There is an online franchise mode this year.
Isn't that insane? That's so awesome.
I mean, I'm kind of spoiled by it because I'm a football fan too, and it's been Madden for so many years that I honestly forgot that that was a new feature until you just brought it up. Yeah, that's been in Madden for about 6 years.
I had no idea because I'm not
So
that much of a football fan, but
yeah,
yeah, to see that in a baseball game, it's the first time ever, folks, for a baseball game. So
yeah, and
that's pretty
I
awesome.
was actually thinking like once we both get the PlayStation camera, I I I felt like an idiot because for anybody that saw my video where I showed off my PS4, I felt like an idiot because I actually thought that the PlayStation camera came with the PS4. It doesn't unless you have a bundle. You have to buy it separately. So I feel like an idiot for not knowing that and not doing it already. But once we both get the PlayStation camera, we talked about doing some live gameplay on Twitch and then putting it here on Geeky TV. I think it would be awesome if we could like do like a joint Mariners and Reds franchise and like figure out
Yeah,
like a time of the week. Like we couldn't do it every day because you work, I work, we're in different time zones. But if we could pick a day of the week where we could, play our franchise mode for the people, I think that would be a lot of fun to do.
yeah, that'd be cool. I
To
mean,
do,
I was thinking of doing that anyways, like,
you know.
broadcasting through the PS4 at least some of the games over Twitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you have the camera yet though?
No, but I
Yeah.
want to get it. I'm probably going to get it eventually.
Yeah. I plan on trying to get it before by within the next couple of months because I want to get it during the baseball season. So when I start doing gameplay, people are still going to care, and they're not going to be like, "Oh, this guy's just a nerd playing baseball in the middle of winter," you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I'm really excited about it, and I look forward to it. I think we talked about it, and I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but um, we definitely are going to try to get together for the first time this year and play each other in the show. Like we've been kind of
Yeah.
trying to play each other for a long time, but we just haven't. We've never had the same version of the game at the same time before.
And now we do. And now
Now
we
we
can
do.
do it.
Yeah,
What's better is we could even, like, if I'm
yeah,
thinking about it right, we could play our franchises against each other online, couldn't we?
yeah. Or at the very least, if we can't do two separate online franchises at the same time, at the very least we could flip a coin, or do it like every other week. We could decide whose franchise gets played, and the other person could just play the opponent that their guy is playing that day. You know, play as the opponent. We could do it that way,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
and it would be so much fun to do. I think you're a little bit scared to play me though, because I talked about it.
Yes.
I talked about it a little bit earlier. I'm
And
in
in the
such
past, I've heard you and Brennan talking about it in the past, and I'm a little scared to play.
because, and I don't mean this to sound egotistical at all, but I've been a fan of baseball since I was 6 years old. I have a ton of insider knowledge, and I'm the most hardcore Reds fan on the planet. So I know my team inside and out, and I know my pitcher's strengths inside and out. And I've thrown no less than 5 no hitters and 3 perfect games in the past on MLB The Show. So I think Stout is a little bit scared to play me.
I don't think I've ever played or thrown a perfect game on the show before.
Yeah,
I've thrown some no hitters, but perfect game, no.
yeah. I threw. I'll never forget it because it was 2011, and it happened within 1 week. It was 1 week of the rotation. It was insane. I threw, um, because it's hard enough to throw one no hitter or one perfect game with the same pitcher, like twice in 1 year, like what Bailey did in back-to-back years. Like that's hard enough. But what happened to me with the show 2012 was, I think I said 2011 a minute ago, but it was 2012, was in the course of 4 straight games, I threw 4 straight no-hitters. So Cueto, Latos, Arroyo, and Leak threw no-hitters
Wow.
in 4 straight games. And I was just, I
That's
was,
like history right there.
yeah, and I was and Leaks was a perfect game. And the thing about Leaks that year was that was Leaks, or was it 2011? I'm trying to remember now because I'm trying to remember my stats because it was Leaks rookie year. And he still had the generic model where they knew he was going to be make a team, but they didn't have his full player model yet. So he just had like the generic rookie face, and he was still called the starter who's going to face them today, and all the generic stuff that they do when they have to add a player at the last minute. But so I was just amazed that Leak threw one in his rookie year. Like you're never going to see that probably ever in your life. I can't remember the last rookie that threw a no-hitter. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I think Stoud's a little bit scared of my pitching skills, but honestly, I think it'll be offset more than he realizes because the Mariners have gotten a lot better than they used to be, simply with the addition of a Robinson Cano, and with the addition of, you mentioned their names earlier. I apologize, I can't remember their names, but there's some really Corey Hart, and there's also a really exciting young player that you guys have.
We got Kyle Seager.
Kyle Seager, yeah.
There's Justin Smoke.
Yeah, Smoke and Seager were the two names that I was thinking about. So you've got more skill there than what I think you realize that you do. So.
Yeah, we definitely have some skill. It's just, in real life, I keep looking at the team losing. I'm just like, well, yeah, that's what happens when you get no-name GM. Great, you go out and get Robinson Cano, but you don't have somebody who can actually lead the team. But that's another discussion for another time.
That's another rant for another time, which we've actually done off the air before.
Yes,
numerous times as friends. But yeah, I look really forward to it because other than my better half, I don't really have any hardcore baseball friends. You're my only one. So the idea.
I know the feeling, man. I know the feeling. Like, I don't have any other friends myself who really like baseball, so it's like, it's hard to find them. I'm glad that we both like baseball and that we both have this.
It's worth showing mine again too, because it's like the holy grail, isn't it? It's like I'm holding the best game on the planet, but I'm not just holding the best game on the planet. Best sports game on the planet. I'm holding the best sports game on the planet for the best counsel on the planet at the same time. It's like a double-edged joy,
But there is one other thing I'd like to say right before we finish this off is, Sony, please make it possible to add our own music from our own hard drives or our own CDs or something like that, just like we could with the PS3, because, I mean, I don't want to have to use Music Unlimited just to be able to add my own music onto the show, which is something you've always been able to do for the past, 4 or 5 years.
I want to have Todd Frazier's walk-up music be Frank Sinatra because he's so eccentric and such a Jersey boy that he would have Frank Sinatra as his walk-up music. I want to be able to add that detail to a game that's full of detail. So, I 100% agree because it annoys the crap out of me to watch Todd Frazier walk up to a rock song. I'm like, that's not Frank Sinatra, that's a freaking rock song.
Yeah.
Like what?
What are you doing, guys?
But
if you can't do it yourself for
the other thing, I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's a review about the game, but that's the major hiccup about the console is the lack of being able to stream from your own devices. I mean, the PS3 media server is something we both utilize on a daily basis. Like if there's shows that our DVR can't record because we're watching the baseball game, we're going to download our show and watch our show through the PS3 media server. I want to be able to unhook my PS3 and give pass my PS3 down to my nephew or somebody else that doesn't have a Blu-ray player. Like, I don't want
Yeah.
to have my PS3 and my PS4 hooked up forever. Like, it's just annoying to me that I still have to fire up the PS3 for certain things.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
The one thing I'm really, really happy about, that I'm really, really shocked about, because I asked you about this, because I actually read the opposite. And I was like, well, I don't ever trust reviewers, so I'm going to ask Stout, because Stout will tell me the truth. And he did, and he was right. The one thing I'm really, really happy about is that the PS4 streams WWE Network and Netflix flawlessly. I mean,
Yeah.
it's absolutely flawless. And it's really, really exciting because it's Wi-Fi, and you don't have to
Yeah.
have an Ethernet cable to be able to stream. Because I kind of freaked out because I realized, oh my God, I don't have an extra Ethernet cable. How am I ever going to stream on the PS4? And what I've discovered is that the PS4 is such a good console that my wireless streaming off the PS4 is actually stronger than my wired streaming through my modem on the PS3. Like, I normally have a couple hiccups when I'm watching live programming on WWE Network. It'll freeze a couple of times, but I haven't had that happen once to me since using the PS4. And
Yeah.
that's awesome.
I can understand why too. I mean, if you think
You
about
know,
it from
you know,
the hardware perspective, um,
you know,
the hardware of the PS3 that also has the Wi-Fi capabilities, but they're just it doesn't have the card. The Wi-Fi card isn't
exactly.
as good as what is in the PS4. The PS4 has a new Wi-Fi card that is capable of streaming at much higher speeds. So that's
Exactly.
why you're getting better streams. You know, that's why it's streaming much better.
The one hiccup, and I think it's being fixed this week if memory serves, but the one hiccup that they need to absolutely fix is they need to get a Blu-ray remote that works with the PS4, because I don't like the idea of having to have my DualShock on my nightstand at night when I'm streaming. You know,
Yeah.
a Blu-ray remote is so much more comfortable, and it doesn't drain your battery. Like, with WWE Network, thank goodness you can turn it off. But it seems like with Netflix, you can't turn the controller off while you're streaming and then turn it back on when you want to go to something else. If you turn the
Yeah.
DualShock off on Netflix, it freezes the Netflix stream. I don't know about Hulu because I can't afford Hulu, WWE Network, and Netflix for all night. No, I'm not gonna spend
Yeah.
$30 a month on streaming services. I just can't do that. So I
Yeah.
had to pick two and go with two. But um, and that's another video I do plan to make when I get my new system. I never got around to making is the value of WWE Network. For $9.99 a month, the value that you get out of it. So that's a little teaser for people that are just on my channel to end this review. But Stout, I really, really enjoyed doing this with you, man. This was a lot of fun, and I hope we've
Yeah.
been able to properly convey. I'm sorry for my body going everywhere. My tray came loose, so I'm probably gonna look like a nut on the actual video. My body going everywhere, and people think, is he trying to crack his back or whatever? It's just because my equipment kind of accidentally came loose on me because I talked so long. But I'm good. Trust me, I'm not hurting or anything, so don't worry. But yeah, this was a lot of fun doing this. Like I said, you're passionate about the sport. I'm passionate about the sport. You're passionate about the game. I'm passionate about the game. And the councils were both passionate about it. So I hope we did a good job. I think we did of
Oh hell
convincing
yeah.
people, that, especially if they already have a PS4, especially if you're
Mhm.
lucky enough to already have a PS4, there is no excuse not to own this game.
Holding it upside down there.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that.
There we go.
There we go. There's no excuse not to own this game at all
None.
if you already have a PS4. And if you have a means,
Unless you don't like baseball, but
unless you don't like baseball, but I'll use Brennan again. One final shout out to Brennan as we end. He's a non-baseball fan, But I've ranted and raved so much about this show or this game for the last 5 years that he'll at least go out and rent the show for a week every year because he knows how good of a gameplay experience it is.
Mm-hmm.
So,
like, even if you don't like sports, it's one of the best simulation games, period, that I've ever seen. That's the thing. I mean, if you like The Sims, if you like any kind of simulation game ever, like, out there, like, that's what this is. It's a baseball game, but more than that, it's simulation. So if you like simulation games, you might actually find that you like this game. You know.
yeah, you really, really will. And even if you have to go out and buy a PS4, I hope that we did a good job of convincing you to buy a PS4 because it really does make that much of a difference.
You can see individual blades of grass, people. And yes, it is.
And individual seams on the ball, and dust on the bat, and dust on the gloves. Like, that's one of my favorite things that we didn't talk about that I have to close this review out with. I love the fact that you can pitch a ball in the dirt now, and when the catcher blocks the ball in the dirt, you can actually see the dirt flying off the baseball and getting up into the eyes of the catcher. You can actually see that now in the game. In the video game. Not watching a game on television. I'm talking about playing a video game. You can see that kind of detail.
Exactly.
It just blows your mind. It will blow your mind. It really will. And the more you talk about it, the more it blows my mind. And I played it for a week. And it still blows my mind every time I put it on. It's just, it's the most amazing, it's the most rewarding. I'm trying to figure out the best way to say it. I think I'll say it like this. It's truly the most rewarding gameplay experience I've ever had. In my 20 years of being a gamer, this is the most rewarding gameplay experience I've ever had.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I can't wait to, the little things will just keep popping up at you with the show. So, like, you'll be playing this for months and months and months, nonstop, thousands of hours, and then 1,000 hours into the game, you'll notice something that you never saw before. That's how detailed this game is.
Yeah,
so.
And I haven't had it happen yet because I haven't got deep enough into the season to have it yet, but supposedly this year, when you get rain happening, you actually can get rainouts. And that's something that's never been on the show before because of the limitations of the PS3 and PS2.
That is one thing I'd like to see more of, like a rain out or just rain starting the game and then halfway through the game the rain ends or stops. Something like realistic weather patterns. That would be cool.
Yeah, like to actually I don't necessarily want my game to get rained out every time, but I would like to see rain delays in April because it's just realistic that that's going to happen. You play for a couple innings, then you have to wait, and it adds more strategy to a strategy-based game because then you have to worry about, okay, my pitcher's been sitting here for an hour, my starter, waiting out this rain delay. Can I afford to send my starter back out, or do I have to dip into my bullpen in the third inning? Like, that's the kind of thing that a simple thing like a rain delay would add to this already great game.
Yeah.
And supposedly it happened this year, so I can't wait to see if it actually has. But I know we'll probably see it next year. And the one thing that I wish would have happened, and it probably just didn't happen because they had to start developing the game so early that they weren't able to figure out an effective way to do it. But I really, really hope that either in a patch or by next year, there's no excuses for it not to be in next year's game. The new replay system for Major League Baseball is one of the glaring things missing from this game. And I was disappointed by that because I like the replay system. I like, especially with Billy Hamilton on my team. Like, there's going to be so many times at first base where I know that he's safe, and he gets called out, and I can't tell the umpire that he's safe.
Yeah.
So I want to see that implemented. I don't know about you. I don't know if you're actually a big fan of replay. A lot of baseball fans I talk to aren't a big fan of replay being added to the game, but I don't mind it because it's a quick system with it being set up in New York. It doesn't delay the game very much, and it just means calls are being done right. So I don't actually mind it at all. And if they put it in
Yeah.
the game, I think it would be great. You know.
Well, I mean, eventually things have to advance in sports games. You have to make some kind of improvements over the years. You
And
can't
baseball
just
is the
let.
oldest game that there is. It's been played for almost 200 years now. So,
Yeah. And I mean, other sports are doing the same kind of thing. It's like it only makes sense to do that because there are so many cases where, like, even when you do that now, you still got the issue of an umpire calling pitches, and clearly they're not always right. I mean, you see that frequently in the show, and it has been like that in the show for years now. But it's one of those
but
touches that it's like
and the
it's
show
both
has it.
aggravating and nice to see.
Yeah, yeah. That's exactly what I was about to say. The show has that because it's a feature that I actually see. We are that baseball fans actually see in real baseball. Umpires are human, so umpires in the game have to be human. But yeah, that's the one rule that I understand why they don't want to put it in because umpires are full of ego, and umpires will make the argument that if you put that in, that it's going to make the game like so much slower because managers are going to be challenging it all the time. But it's just a challenge that has to be allowed. You have to be allowed at least once or twice a game. Well, keep it the way it is now. You have one challenge. If you get it right, you get a chance to do it a second time. But you have to be able to, at a point in time, like don't do it in the first or second inning. If the umpire's got a whack that strike zone, you don't do it until you know it's going to cost you the game. But if you're talking about a strike three versus a ball four in the bottom of the ninth inning or the top of the ninth inning, that's going to literally make a difference in a game, and the fact that you can't challenge that, or that's just ridiculous. And
Yeah.
you have to be able to do that. I'm sorry,
If
man.
I've got Lou Pinella, I
Yeah.
want to be able to take Lou out and challenge things and see him get all fired up. I mean, you know.
But what's funny is that's the one negative about the new replay system, actually, in my opinion, is that you don't see the ejections very much anymore. Because once the challenge has been made and a decision has been made about the challenge, you can't re-challenge it. If you keep arguing, like the one ejection I've seen this year is my manager, Brian Price, earlier this year, got ejected specifically for that reason. A replay call did not go our way, and he kept on talking about it. And they tried to push him back to the dugout and say, you can't do that because the replay officials have rendered their decision. And he kept jawing and kept jawing. So they tossed him out of the game, which I love to see as a fan because it means my manager's invested in what he's doing. And so I didn't have a problem with it. But you're not going to see it as much with the replay system, I don't think, because the replay does that job. The manager doesn't have to tell the umpire that he's an idiot anymore.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm going to miss that.
Yeah, I'm going to miss it too. I'm going to miss it too. There's no doubt about it.
Progress has to be made. But anyways, we should finish this up.
Yeah, we should finish it up. But the one thing I do want to do in closing, and I'll do mine because I have it already in my hand, is we didn't talk about we talked all game long about, or all review long about the details in this game and how much San Diego Studios and Sony care about the game. Look at that. Artwork inside a freaking video game case. It's artwork. This isn't a Blu-ray with artwork in it. This is a video game with artwork in it. That, I'm sorry, but total nerdgasm. Just the epitome of an orgasm to me right there. with that. I don't know about you, but I love when I saw that. I was like, oh my goodness. You know,
It's very nice. Yes.
yeah. So, yeah. Bottom line, if we haven't said it enough, get a PS4, get MLB 14 the show, or MLB the show 14, if you're supposed to say it that way now. Get this game because it's the best gameplay experience you're ever going to have in your life. It really, really is.
Yep.
And
Agreed.
I've talked about it for almost 2 hours, and I literally, or what feels like almost 2 hours. So there's literally nothing more I can say. We could probably do this again, though. We could probably do 3 or 4 reviews of this game, because we're probably going to keep talking for a minute when we're done and be like, oh, we forgot to say this, or oh, we forgot about that. But
Longest review ever, but it's worth it because it's a great game.
it really is, and
Really
I can't
great detail.
I can't wait to do it again next year, because next year this year we were able to talk about how wonderful the game is for first generation. Next year is going to be our first game on a new console. I mean first version of a game. Next year, if some of the little itty bitty problems that we've discussed haven't been addressed, then next year we get to go on a rant.
Yeah.
Because they haven't been addressed.
Yeah.
Which it always makes for a lot of fun.
Keep it on you, man. We're keeping on you, Sony. SCEA.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, baseball fans, thank you and fans of us in general, thanks for watching and listening to this review. Now go play the freaking show.
That's right.
I'm the Razman, aka Razman's Reality. He is
Stoudman, aka Stoudman.
You forgot to tout all your stuff, like founder of Geeky, writer.
Oh, that's right.
You know.
I am the founder of Geeky.com. I am a writer for TeenageMutantNinjaTurtles.com. You can check out my work on there as well. You can reach me at Geeky, Stoudman at Geeky.com. You can post your own content on Geeky if you want to. We have a submit a post button on the front page now. And all that content will be edited by yours truly, and I'm a fairly good editor, so no problem there.
He's
and
more
you
than
can
fairly
reach
good
me.
people. He's being modest right now. He's an amazing editor.
You can also reach me at my new email address, justinw at teenagemutantninjaturtles.com. So
the new chief executive writer for one of the greatest franchises of all time. I still can't get over the fact that you're a close personal friend of mine and you get your hands all over probably my favorite franchise ever. If I was pressed to name it, I would say that it was the Ninja Turtles. And once I get a new system, which I'm very, very close to doing, like I talked about way back in the beginning of this review, that is one of my main focuses on my channel this year. I'm going to be doing 30 years of Turtle Power and breaking down everything Ninja Turtles. And I think you and I and Sean and possibly Planet Beer Wagon, Travis Beer Wagon, but I know you and I and Sean are confirmed for it because we talked about it earlier in the year. We're going to, at the end of it, we're going to do like a round table reflection on what the Ninja Turtles mean to us. And you guys on Sean's channel on Zero Night's Rack through Geeky TV are already rewatching the original series already together.
We just finished the first half of season 2 last night, actually.
Yeah. And I'm having a lot of fun rewatching the series for a second time already this year with you guys on those archives. So, yeah. And
I've been watching the new series as well. I'm loving the new series, actually. Absolutely loving it.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to talk about that because I've been trying to talk to you about the new series for a while, and you just haven't had the ability to watch it until now when you can afford a Hulu subscription.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when we get off the air, I know what we're going to be talking about. But yeah, I truly hope you enjoyed this as much as we enjoyed doing it. Stout, thanks for being here. Well, you're welcome to do any kind of joint review or collaboration with me anytime. You're one of the best people I know, and I enjoy the heck out of your
Thank
company.
you.
I enjoy the heck out of your company, and you're welcome. And like I said before, just to end this, I can't wait to play you. Um, I don't think we're gonna have enough energy to do it today because we have catch up still to do, and we've exhausted our energy probably. But maybe later this week or same time next week, I would love to work it out and play it, man. You know,
Yeah.
well you gotta fit around our work schedules, but it's gonna happen, and hopefully it'll happen at a time where we can figure out how to set it up on Twitch,
Yes.
so that the viewers can experience it with us. Because I think that would add even more to it. So that if Raz is throwing a no hitter or a perfect game against Stout, you get to see and experience Stout's rage right along with him.
No.
So yeah, MLB 14 the show, as we officially end this now after like the fifth try. MLB 14 the show, greatest game there is right now on the greatest console there is right now, PlayStation 4. Get it, love it, live it, beast.